I've got a dog. He's called Fred. My dog is alive. He's not dead. I love my dog. He loves me too. I haven't got a cat, only a dog. My dog, my dog, my dog, my dog. I've got a dog. I love my dog. He's my dog. He's not your dog. If you want a dog, get your own. Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always, I am joined with...
Hello, it's Scott, and would you believe it, but Murray Gold took only 10 minutes to write that song, apparently.
That's impressive. To write a song that is like the same level as any other Beatles song I've ever heard. Pretty damn good.
It's got to be a reference to don't leave your dog in a... No, leave your dog in a hot car, right? That's got to be a reference to that song.
Maybe. If that's a Beatles song, I don't really know that many Beatles songs.
It's not a real Beatles song, but it's a meme where people were like, yeah, this is a real Beatles song. Let's make a song that sounds nothing like the Beatles. And apparently people were convinced enough it was the Beatles that we were like, yeah, the Beatles wrote a song called Don't Leave... leave your dog in a hot car. Leave your dog in a hot car.
Hell yeah. We don't advocate for doing that on this podcast. Instead, on this podcast, we are going to be looking at the first 2 episodes of brand new Doctor Who. It is here, series 1 of this brand new show none of us have heard of before called Doctor Who. Disney Plus original. Doctor Who had dropped its first 2 episodes, Space Babies and The Devil's Chord, which definitely are of a certain quality, I think is how I'm gonna word that. We're gonna look at both episodes and just kind of review and talk about our thoughts and our feelings. I've got a few things I want to read out towards the end as well, in regards to general public reaction. But looking at Space Babies, Scott, what's your general thoughts on how that adventure went as an episode 1, or I guess it's episode 2 on Disney Plus because they're counting the Christmas special as episode 1?
I think as an episode 1, it works well as a 45-minute episode. The problem is there's a lot of guff in there, which is explaining the show to a brand new audience. The first 6 minutes alone is just something completely unrelated.
It was so the first 6 minutes of just pure exposition. Like, honestly, like it's like levels of exposition I think that would make Chibnall shudder. Like it was shocking. It was just straight up characters standing still being like, I'm like this, by the way, and this is my entire past.
Yeah. If you just take all the Space Baby stuff, it does work well for a 45-minute episode. I think the story is simple enough for new viewers. Episode 1, especially in the Russell T Davies era, is simple. You go with your Rose or your New Earth or your Smith and Jones or your Partners in Crime. They're just simple, fun romps, and that's kind of what the Space Babies is. There's some pacing problems because of all this exposition that feels like it could have been cut, most of it. I don't know. It feels like most of it could have been cut, honestly.
Yeah, you could cut this whole episode, I think, and everything would still be okay. I really didn't like this episode. I really disliked the exposition. One thing that I didn't like across both episodes is the editing is insane.
Yeah.
like the weird cuts everywhere. There's like no time to breathe in any given moment, which I guess for episode 1 I can kind of see the thinking of like, oh, we'll just go straight in. Thrilling adventure, edge of your seat, no stop, pow 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 pow. So if this is your first time watching it, you're like, oh my god, what a roller coaster that was so exciting and daring and adventurous and whatnot. But just as a regular episode of TV, it was fucking legitimately almost incomprehensible to me at some points. I don't fully know what the plot is. I've only seen Space Babies once, and I watched it at midnight when it came out after being at the pub. So I came back and I half watched it, half drunk, and then I went, okay, I'm going to bed. And I was very miserable with it.
Yeah, this is the problem with the midnight release. I would say I was like 70% awake during both episodes at midnight, but, I need 100% awakeness to taste all the offerings that the devils. Sorry, no. What's the episode
Space
called?
babies.
The space babies.
You want to taste them space babies.
Yes, I want to taste the space babies. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of weird editing stuff that we'll get into.
I think it's an episode. I think it's in the Devil's Chord. The editing when the Doctor, or it could be the end of Space Babies. The Doctor turns to like do something with the jukebox, but instead it cuts to a close up of the Sonic, and then it cuts to the TARDIS, and then it cuts to the next scene. It's like, what the fuck was that entire sequence there?
One of the things that people noticed in episode 1 was that maybe there was going to be a jukebox song that would have been selected. I think it's called Push the Button by the Sugar Babes. A lot of people think that's a song that was going to play in the episode, because in the Space Babies the Doctor says push the button like twice. And that Imagine Russell T Davies documentary that came out in December, in that episode, in that documentary, Russell T Davies points out, hey, this jukebox is going to play a big role in Series 1. The very first scene inside the TARDIS is the Doctor selecting which song to use, which wasn't used, which wasn't in the episode. So a lot of people are just kind of scratching their heads, wondering what happened. Maybe they lost the rights to a song halfway through production or something. I don't know.
Maybe, who did you say did the song?
The Sugar Babes.
Yeah, maybe the Sugar Babes watched the episode and said, fuck that. Do not associate our music with that at all. But yeah, no, Space Babies, more like Space Lamies. Am I right?
Oh my god, perfect.
I did it.
Yeah.
Go say what you were about to say. I was about to say I fucking hated the babies.
The first 6 minutes is just pure exposition. The Doctor talks about his past. He name drops the Rani, which a lot of people were excited about. I don't know if you've seen that on Twitter.
I didn't see anybody being excited about it, but I did catch it when it happened in the episode. Also, thinking about the Doctor just giving away his past in the first 6 minutes of the episode, and comparing it to Rose, because there's a lot of parallels between this episode and a lot of stuff in Series 1, with Eccleston and Rose and stuff like that. What I think that series, I would have to think of a way of calling it other than both of them Series 1. What I thought in Eccleston's run is they did a really great job of building this mystique around the Doctor. So the entire series, you're asking yourself, like, oh my god, what happened to him? Oh my god, what happened to Gallifrey? Oh my god, who is he? Who even is the Doctor? You know, what is a Time Lord? What is any of this? And they don't answer that for a very long time. And if you were an old fan of the show, I'm sure you were sitting there being all smug, like, well, I know who he is. We come into this one, which is essentially the same place we were at in 2005. There hasn't been that 10-year gap of the show being off the air. We've only had a few years, but it's still, this is Series 1. You're trying to get in new people, and instead we've lost one of the main factors of the show, which is Doctor Who. Instead, in the first 6 minutes, the Doctor's saying, I'm from Gallifrey, I'm adopted, I know this happened to me, and all these things go on, and we find out his entire life story immediately,
And it kind of works for me that the Doctor is so open about his past to Ruby here, because one of my complaints about the Chibnall era is the companions fucking know nothing. Does Yaz even know about the Timeless Child or the Doctor finding out?
Yaz is the Doctor having a fling. There's no emotional. It's pure physical. There's
I'm kind of happy that we have a more open Doctor again, rather than I'm just going to keep everything secret. It took them until the opening of season 12, a full season in, to find out that the Doctor could change faces. In Spyfall, I think it was. It's amazing.
is pretty funny. But again, that's comparing like an I think an issue from like series what, like 13 or something, right? Like series 11, 12, 13. This is series 1. This is a fresh slate. This is a new audience. This is, you're trying to bring in new people, and you're just immediately lore dumping. Like if this was my first time watching Doctor Who, that would be that's such an overwhelming amount of information to throw in the first 6 minutes. Where I'm like, what the fuck is this show? Like I guess that was not subtle at all. And to be fair, if this was the first episode of the TV show that I'd never seen before, I don't know if I'd make it to episode 2.
Yeah, okay, I agree with you in a certain extent, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we go to the dinosaur times. It looks, this scene does look pretty impressive, I gotta say. It's obviously not the most show-offy kind of effects that's going on here. We're just standing around in a green screen environment, but the whole Jurassic Park era is done pretty well.
That was another that scene there, the Jurassic Park era, one that we called on the podcast as happening very early on in episode 1. So another win for us. And secondly, what I didn't like about this scene, which it's just a joke. It's a punchline scene. It's a whatever scene. It doesn't really matter. But if I'm putting on my Doctor Who fan hat here, how the fuck do the rules of time travel work now? Was
yes.
This time travel's never worked like that in Doctor Who before.
It feels kind of like a logic, when we do the comic relief stuff. It kind of feels like it fits more with that kind of genre. But
it feels like a sketch, like you're doing a gag. But this is a canon episode of Doctor Who.
Ruby steps in a butterfly, kills it, turns into like an alien. I guess kind of.
I guess she's like a Silurian sort of. Yeah.
And then the Doctor brings back the butterfly to life, and then things are fine. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It makes me question too much about the internal logic of the show. Although across these 2 episodes, internal logic doesn't seem to be a thing that Russell T Davies has been giving a shit about, which is a really interesting way to run Doctor Who.
And we're at the point of the episode, it's 6 minutes in. We only have 40 minutes left to wrap up the episode, which is a lot. It's a lot.
And no plot's happened. The plot hasn't even started yet. Yeah.
Like, I feel like if you just cold opened, if you really want that dinosaur scene, this is a scene that Disney wanted. They didn't want this scene directly, but they said, hey, you have a bigger budget, why not make it more fun, the opening? So maybe the original opening was just the Doctor picking the song, and then we go into the space babies. Maybe that was the original I don't know. But yeah, we're 6 minutes in, and the episode properly starts with Ruby choosing random numbers off the top of her head and jumping around, which is kind of cute.
Yeah, it's fun. I liked Millie Gibson. I think consistently is very good as Ruby Sunday, and of course Ncuti Gat was fantastic as the Doctor as well. They have like instant like Ruby feels like she's been in the TARDIS forever. Like she doesn't feel like she's kind of baffled by anything going on around her. She's kind of just taking it all in her stride. Same with the Doctor giving her a TARDIS key. Like he just does that straight away. It doesn't feel like a big moment or that it had been earned in any way. Whenever he's given the TARDIS key to other companions, it's always like oh shit, you don't want me to go, like you want me to stay with you. That's awesome. It's like this big heartfelt thing, and this he's like, here you fucking go, just take it, please.
One of the things I did catch in a second viewing that earns her the TARDIS key is that she wants to go with the Doctor when she, later on in the episode when he's like, okay, you need to stay here because I'm about to do something really dangerous, and then Ruby is like, yeah, I want to go with you, I'm gonna go with you, and then the Doctor just smiles. That is a moment that earns her the TARDIS key in the logic of this episode. But, but
it comes way too soon.
Yeah.
Like, if that was a moment, like, an episode or 2 episodes in when Ruby's had a few harrowing experiences and she's, like, a bit scared by this whole space thing. She's like, oh my god, this is a lot, Doctor. And he's like, okay, well, if it's getting too much for you, stay back. And he's like, nah, it's chill, though. He's like, fuck yeah, here's a key.
How long do you think it would take for the Doctor to give her the key? Because this episode opens up immediately after the Christmas special. So the
Yeah.
Doctor's only known her for like a day, maybe. Whereas episode 2, 6 months later, it's a half a year has passed. I feel like the Doctor's got to give a key, like, at the halfway mark, like 3 months in or something. And it's kind of bizarre.
Maybe, or you could do like, do you need to do the 6 month time jump? You could make that a 3 month time jump and do the same. Like the time jump is a very bizarre thing that happens in episode 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I guess it works well because, you know, if you want to do a TV show, you got to try and make it work alongside real time. If the present has to be alongside real time, but why? Why not open this episode up 4 months later and she's had some experience with time travel already or something like that? It's kind of bizarre.
I mean, this whole series so far is just bizarre. It's so, I think, unlike anything I was expecting Russell to come back and do, and yet somehow fits exactly the sort of things that he's done before. You know, it's a meshing of worlds.
Yeah, Russell does love his bombastic, crazy stuff. You know, like this episode is constantly throwing everything at you. I think in one of the confidential episodes, we're like, yeah, we basically threw everything and the kitchen sink into these episodes. But what you miss by doing that is the quiet moments, the subtle moments of just emotion. Like, if you throw in too many ideas, and I think the Devil's Chord suffers from having too many extended sequences that are just, oh, Doctor Who's never done this before, let's have a full musical number that doesn't really tie into anything. You know? Yeah.
It's so strange. There's such strange episodes, and I'm very much looking forward to Moffat's episode coming this Friday, simply because I want to see we've seen quite a bit of what modern Russell T Davies is like, and so far, personally speaking, Russell T Davies 1 better than Russell T Davies 2. Russell T Davies 2, I have a lot more criticisms about than I did with the first run of Russell T Davies. And there's criticisms to be given in that first run as well. It's not like it was a flawless run or anything like that. But the problems seem more like these aren't issues he had before.
Yeah.
He didn't have issues with pacing really before. He didn't have issues with delivering exposition, or, you know, his biggest issue was subtlety in storytelling, which is what like, he foreshadows things with the biggest fucking spotlight on them.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problems with the pacing is because he's trying to make it bigger. Like, we'll get into it in episode 2. I think episode 2 suffers way more with the pacing. So they land on a spaceship, and there's an immediate Star Trek reference. And Ncuti Gatwa was like, yeah, we got to visit the people of Star Trek someday. Which is such a bizarre line, which implies that the crossover comics with Matt Smith and the Star Trek universe happened. It's all
canon. Everything's canon.
The Doctor explains the chameleon circuit is broken, like most of the universe is shattered, babes, which I like that line. And of course we have a xenomorph in this episode.
We do have a xenomorph in this episode, the boogeyman, which I thought was a really weak, or sorry, it's literally a bogeyman though, isn't it? Like there's bogey,
yes.
That's the whole thing. I didn't like it. I thought it was bad. It reminded me of the really bad Capaldi episode with the sleep in your eye that turned into a monster, and that was terrible. Now it's the bogies in your nose that have turned into a monster, also terrible. Also, this episode and Devil's Chord, back-to-back episodes, have the Doctor running away from the villain because he's too scared.
Yes, which I think is going to be something that gets explained later on, because it feels like it's supposed to be a theme if it happens twice in a row. And also what happens twice in a row. In this episode, the Doctor describes the aliens' vocal cords as being at a certain frequency, which kind of inspires fear in people, which kind of brings out the fear in people. The Devil's Chord, of course, it's the Devil's Chord. That also is a frequency that inspires fear in people. So is there a coincidence, or Is
Yeah.
this a theme of a season?
It's
It
just,
feels like it's a
Russell
theme.
D Davis didn't. He just didn't have many ideas. He had like 3 ideas, so he just copied and pasted them.
Of course, they find there's a baby farm on board, and immediately
Immediately this episode went even further downhill for me. The second the baby showed up, I went, fuck. Because they did like the weird CGI lip things to make it look like they're talking, but it doesn't fucking, like they don't move. The lips still don't move. Like, you've animated, I can see these are fake lips and they're not matching the words.
Yeah, so the thing they did was they basically, obviously there's like 6-year-olds voicing these babies, and they took footage of the 6-year-olds and just kind of like tried to match the mouth movements, and so the entire face is CGI of a real baby, but it's like motion captured to the 6-year-olds, and it does not look good. It looks terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And it's so uncanny.
Yeah.
I hate CGI babies. They are the fucking worst. Like, I just keep thinking of baby geniuses every time they pop up. It's terrifying.
It is really, really, really bad, and the babies in it, honestly, it made me want to stop watching. I was like, this is so bad. It's so it's just cringy. Like, if I was to be like, I love Doctor Who, and I have got a friend over who's never watched Doctor Who, but I've got them all excited. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's stay up to midnight and watch Doctor Who. And this is the episode that's playing. I'm apologizing to my friend. Yeah. I swear the show isn't like this. I swear.
I do wonder if that's part of the reason why. I guess it would be Disney that requested that this and the Devil's Chord drop at the same time.
Yeah, I doubt it's a BBC.
Yeah,
BBC don't care.
So I do wonder if it's Disney being like, yeah, this first episode not strong.
It's a bit weak.
The second episode is more Doctor Who-y. We kind of need both at the same time to try and to entice new viewers, I guess, that's the reason.
Honestly, the second episode being there, I was you know, we had our criticisms against the midnight dropping and the dropping of 2 episodes, but having that second episode there did do wonders for me, because that first episode put such a bad taste in my mouth that when I went into episode 2, my expectations were so fucking low that it was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, oh my god, if this feels like Doctor Who, fuck yeah. You know, like, it was space babies crawled so that the Devil's Chord could walk.
So yeah, I noted that in the first 12 minutes of the episode, there's probably like 2 minutes of plot. That's obviously not counting all the first 6 minutes of just random garbage and all the exposition. So 12 minutes. How long the episode is remaining? Like half an hour remaining. Half an hour. Yeah. That's insane. Like, I don't know.
There's like there's I don't know either. There's like these tiny little changes that are just upsetting to me. The TARDIS, the way the TARDIS moves. Yeah. It's so fucking shit now. It either it goes crashing into a building, which I'm okay with, or it just fucking blinks. It's boop, we're there. You know, there's no big whoosh, 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 whoosh of the machine. It's just, it's done. Fuck it, we're here. I don't give a shit. There we go. Yeah, like, it's lost its aura. You know, the TARDIS moving used to be a huge machine. It used to be like, this thing is alive. Look, it's breathing in and out as we're traveling, ripping through space and time. And now it's just, fuck it.
I do like that they're trying to explain the inconsistencies of a TARDIS. Like, sometimes we'll see it flying in the time vortex, and then all of a sudden it just materializes somewhere. So what was the point of all that flying, you know? Like,
I get, but like, it's Doctor Who. Sometimes I know, you don't. Sometimes you don't explain things, and it makes it better. Sometimes the TARDIS just does that because it's the fucking TARDIS, okay?
But when the TARDIS crash lands into this space station, or when we've seen footage in the trailers where it crash lands in Unit, where there's multiple people there, it could crash land into anyone who's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, this is dangerous.
And what happens then? Because we know if it materializes on someone, that person just goes inside the TARDIS fine. If it fucking slams into you going 50 miles an hour down a hallway, I doubt you're just going to go inside it. Like, you're turned into paste.
I mean, the one time the TARDIS does do a proper materialization in this episode, the fucking ceiling is half gone. Like, is there going to be a line where they're like, yeah, the last time you were here, you fucking tore a roof? You know, like, are they ever going to explain it, or is this just something that's never going to get addressed? Because that is really weird.
Well, we will. I'm going to give Russell T Davies some credit. We didn't think he would explain Mathew.
True,
he did. You know, like we thought that would just be a one-off joke and he wouldn't come back to it, but he made sure that there was a through canon explanation.
But the main baby comes out, and his name is Eric, and the original voice actor for Eric was going to be Lenny Rush. Russell T Davies loved his performance so much at the read through. He was like, yeah, I need to write a new role for you because you are just giving it. And he's, of course, going to be he's going to play Morris Gibbons in a future episode. He's like the unit scientific advisor, I think he is, which, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him. He seems good.
yeah, I enjoyed him. He's already appeared, hasn't he?
Not yet, no.
No? When did I see it? It must have been Children in Need that I saw him, because I saw him...
Yeah, he came out on stage in Children in Need,
Yeah, so that's the only exposure I have to him as a performer, and I thought he was entertainingly charming, so I look forward to seeing him as well.
But yeah, he is 15 years old, and I feel bad for where I am in my life. I want to be on Doctor Who.
He probably has rich parents. He's probably connected, or his like dad's in the industry or something, you know.
But yeah, whole baby sequence here. The doctor, they think Ruby and the Doctor are their mummies and daddies.
Which I'm okay with. I'm okay with them being called mummy and daddy in the first episode. I'm sure that's.
I mean, they are mummy and daddy, but it's just a bit too overly cute for Doctor Who. It feels like this episode is made for babies, you know.
I mean, it's called Space Babies, but this one definitely did. It's some of the most kid feeling Doctor Who we've had in a while. Like, if this plot was in Sarah Jane, I think I'd be more okay with it. Where I'm like, oh yeah, that Sarah Jane episode where they go to an orphanage and the babies are getting haunted by a boogeyman, you know. Like, that's like a whatever episode of Sarah Jane. But for an episode of Doctor Who, it's like a bit. It's a bit baby for the baby show.
And they find out the kids never had a hug, so they hug the babies.
Good plot.
Great stuff.
Good plot point.
We're 15 minutes into the episode at this point. Nothing's happened really. So the Doctor and Poppy basically talk. We find out the crew went home. They left the birthing machine running. They grew up but stayed the same size. So they're like 6-year-olds in babies' bodies, which sounds fucking horrifying. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's nightmarish. and then Poppy has the line, she's basically like, we grew up wrong. And the Doctor's like, yeah, nobody grows up wrong, which is a line that people really resonated with, which is kind of lovely, you know. It's kind of lovely to have those kind of like little lines here and there. Because especially since the Doctor is a black man, he's talking to a black baby, nobody grows up wrong. That's kind of lovely, you know? That's kind of lovely little moments here and there. I mean, of course, the Doctor's like, yeah, I need to tell my backstory again. So he fucking tells the backstory about being found by the Time Lords.
Yeah. What's the name of the show again? Doctor.
Like, the Doctor is so fucking open. It's kind of insane.
It's real. It's a very strange it's like his one consistent character trait up to this point has been He's very. Doesn't he tell fucking Ruby his name? Isn't there a line where he's like, the Time Lords are these really strange people. You know, they're called Rassilon and the Doctor, blah blah blah. You know, before that I was called, and then he walks off frame. Does he just tell Ruby his name?
I don't think so. A lot of people are being confused by that line because it gets cut off for no reason. But if he's going through the whole spiel of everyone was given a title, blah blah blah, the Rani, the Master, etc. My name was the Doctor, I presume is where that sentence ends, because I don't think
I think he said Doctor already though. Like I read it as he was about to say
he's
his
introducing
name.
himself to Ruby's mum, which I think he's already done. So yeah,
I don't know. It was weird for me. It was because especially if he is so open now about giving away like what his genuine name is. Like it really undermines the River Song stuff. You know, where it's like, you know, she knows his real name because they're married and they love each other. Woo.
I definitely don't think he gave him his real name. I don't think that happened, but
yeah. Again, it's so the editing and the dialogue is delivered so fucking fast. You know, it's blinking you miss stuff, honestly.
Yeah, earlier I shared with you a tweet that was comparing the scene where Ruby calls her mom on this space station versus the scene from, I think it's called The End of the World. Is that
it's like episode 2 of season 1.
Episode 2 of series 1, yeah, where
from
Rose
Zara,
also calls her
not the
mom.
Devil's Chord.
But yeah, in like the scene from series 1, the Christopher Eccleston era, the scene is like 2.5 minutes long versus the scene from this episode, which is like less than a minute. And there's a lot you could fucking do with silences. There's a lot.
Both episodes are the same runtime. Both are about 45 minutes, you know, and I think the End of the World, even the like plot wise, the End of the World, or if that's what it's called, I don't remember, is like it's like a whatever plot, you know. It's Cassandra's trying to kill a bunch of rich aliens on this planet overlooking Earth. Like it's a very minuscule plot, so we can be focused in on the relationship of the Doctor and Rose being taken out of her time and thrown into the future and watching the planet burn, and she's off running with this stranger who she doesn't even really know who this guy is, and that's this huge big mystery, and he's this weird dude. Whereas now we've got, you know, Ruby, who's got a lot of parallels to Rose, the Doctor, who's like, oh, I'm X, Y, and Z, and this is exactly what's happening, and Ruby's like, cool, that sounds fine to me. You know, which I guess you could argue character growth. The Doctor is more willing to make his companions comfortable, but it makes for less compelling TV.
I think the difference again is with episode 2, with The End of the World, you don't have 6 minutes wasted on random bullshit, so you could use those 6 minutes somewhere else to build 20 seconds of silence before characters speak to each other, which builds a tone and just everything, you know. Silence is everything sometimes, you know. Yeah,
I've got there's a silence joke in there somewhere about
God.
You know, the Doctor, you know, the Doctor Who villain, the silence. There's some sort of joke that could be made there. I'm not smart enough.
They get introduced to the nanny, and the Doctor's like, yeah, it must be Nane, nanny, as in I think I said deliberately a Wally joke. It has to be, right? Because the babies are kind of like the fat people from Wally in a way, you know?
Yeah, they're floating around on chairs and, you know.
And this is the great scene where every baby gets their nose blown, which is like the most incredible scene of Doctor Who ever, you know?
Iconic.
The babies are scared of the bogeyman. One of the babies are like, yeah, that's not a doggo. But a lot of doggo use in this episode, which I'm not a fan of.
Do people still say doggo? That feels like 2013.
Do people fucking say doggo in 2100?
Yeah,
500, yeah, whatever the fucking year is. Like, this is thousands of years ahead, and they're not human. They're kind of like, whatever. Like, where do the fucking babies pick up doggo from? They've had no human interaction with anyone.
It's just.
What do they? How do they know what dogs are?
It's just part of being human. You've never seen a dog before. You've never heard the word dog. Someone throws an image of a dog at you. You go doggo, doggo. It's a natural instinct, you know.
But the doctor in this scene really loves scaring these fucking kids for some reason. He keeps putting up images of the boogeyman and just scaring them. Like, when you're around kids, the worst thing they can do is fucking cry. So stop making the fucking kids fucking cry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely an episode that I watched on TV. This is definitely 45 minutes of my life.
Vanani is also scared of a boogeyman. We basically find out here that she's human and that she's in Portal 357. The Doctor and Ruby run out to find Nani, but not before they stop to have more exposition.
Way.
Because the Doctor's like, oh yeah, Ruby, isn't it a coincidence that we're in a room full of babies and you were found as a baby?
Oh
and also
god,
the Christmas stuff?
The fucking. It's the have people that work on Doctor Who forgotten what humans sound like?
Yes.
Because the dialogue in Chibnall's era fucking sucked, and now the dialogue in Russell's era fucking sucks. What is happening? Why do people not know how to write dialogue anymore?
Yeah, it's such a bizarre thing for the Doctor to stop and comment on. Like, just roll on with the episode. And we can pick up on the coincidences later.
Yeah, let us make that connection as an audience when we're discussing it together. Like, oh shit, hang on, this is, and draw parallels or bring it all together in the end. I don't know if you need to blatantly, like, fucking point out, hey, this is the fucking, look at the thing. You see what I'm doing?
But we get a flashback to the Doctor at Christmas outside the church on Ruby Road. And when it starts snowing in the ship, the memory changed about the mother because the Doctor's like, all of a sudden I just remember her pointing at me, which is interesting. A lot of interesting stuff about Ruby and her memories, and something suggests that she's not entirely human or something was done to her as an experiment or something. I'm not sure what's going on, but I do like the little glimpses at the little mystery box Russell T Davies is setting up here. It's intriguing, to say the least.
I hope it has a payoff, and I mean, this, like, Ruby to me kind of at the minute feels like a blending of Clara and Rose. Where there's the obvious Rose parallels that we've gone over already, but Clara had that whole stuff going on of, the impossible girl or whatever, like she was everywhere and kept dying. It turns out, like, who are you, Clara? What's the secret you've got? And it turns out you're the most important person that's ever fucking existed ever. Now get killed by a crow. But it's I'm curious to see where it's gonna go and what's gonna happen, because what I really liked about Graham as a companion.
Yeah.
Graham's he's just a guy. That's what I liked about Dan.
Yeah.
He's just a dude.
Yeah.
They're just there. They're not the greatest being that's ever existed. They're not the most important human that's ever been around. They're not the end all be all fucking extravagant companions. They're just the Doctor's mates. So Amy and Rory are the same. They're not the most important people. The Doctor just likes hanging around with them, and then they die. Like the same with Bill. Bill's just like wants a girlfriend or something, and then she dies. It's like I miss when companions weren't the most important fucking plot drivers. They're just they're the audience.
Yeah, it is this whole companion has a whole mystery box surrounding her is more of a Moffat thing, because it was with Amy, it was the girl who waited, which seems which seems to be brought back again with current Doctor Who, with the one who waits. Is there a connection? Probably not. It's probably not.
It's Amy Pond. She's the big villain now.
And then there was a whole mystery box surrounding Clara, which upped it. And then there wasn't one about Bill. If there was, it was very slight,
Yeah, it's like, look at that puddle.
The mystery box of Series 10 was what's in the cage. It was Missy. That was the mystery box.
What's in the fucking safe in the basement or whatever.
But back in the original Russell T Davies run, there was no mystery boxes. Rose was just a normal girl.
A teenager.
Martha was just a normal doctor lady.
She was the rebound. She was
Donna.
I mean, it was the doctor trying to shag until he realized that he actually just needed to like have an emotional connection with somebody when he meets Donna, because he picks up Rose, then he bounces off to Martha, but he's not really feeling it, and then he drops onto Donna. He's like, oh wait, I just wanted a friend. That was my mistake.
But yeah, the whole stuff with Donna, there was coincidences, and that gets brought up in episode 11 of Series 4, where the doctor's like, there's a lot of coincidences about you that I've noticed. I've run into your grandfather on Christmas Eve. He's like, the whole universe is like fucking revolving around you.
Although Donna did have the whole Dr. Donna stuff. That's kind of a companion going fucking super Saiyan,
But the whole coincidence stuff wasn't built in organically to the plot. It was more of a, hey, I want to work with Catherine Tate again. Oh, hey, this actor who plays Donna's dad is seriously ill. Let's bring in Bernard Cribbins instead. That's why those coincidences happen, because of real life circumstances. Whereas these coincidences are built into the plot, and I'm not sure if Russell T Davies has a handle on these weird coincidences, because two episodes in a row with babies is a bit too much. If this was episode 5, I would be happier.
If you binge it.
Yeah.
If you binge it, it's a lot of babies to deal with.
This episode fucking takes place 10 seconds after the last episode. Like,
fucking 14th Doctor surrounded by babies.
If this was episode 4, maybe I'd be
15th
happy
Doctor,
with the change.
He's the 15th, isn't he? Not the 14th. Because
I always get that mixed up as well. Yeah. But anyway, we are 22 minutes into this episode, and we finally get information on what the spaceship is. We watched basically a bunch of Resonation videos, basically like, hey, I can't work on this spaceship or this space station because it's morally wrong, essentially, is what's going on here. And usually this is kind of information that's padded out 10 minutes into the episode, not 22 minutes halfway into the episode. It feels like Act 1 is still going on. It still is going on.
It's still set up, yeah. There's still no plot other than they're on a spaceship with babies on it.
Act 2 begins with baby Eric zooming in to try and stop the bogeyman, and that takes place 27 minutes into the episode. It's insane. But yeah, one of the videos on this monitor is Susan Twist, who is the face that we keep on seeing, but the Doctor still hasn't quite caught on to the fact that he sees the faces, because
I think they did a good job in episode 2 when she's behind him and he just turns around, he's not looking at her. Yeah,
the same thing happens in this episode. Susan Twist appears on the monitor, but the pipes keep letting out steam, and that distracts the Doctor and Ruby while her video is playing in the background. It's kind of like Rose in Series 4. Every time you sometimes catch a glimpse of her on a monitor somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see him still kind of doing this here. But yeah, the law says it's illegal to stop the birthing machine. The nanny didn't want to leave them, and she's trying to stop the ship from falling apart. It's been 6 years, essentially. She's hiding because she doesn't want to see the babies die, or them to see her die, because eventually the air is going to run out, and she's going to give them her last air, basically. She's trying to protect them, which... this kind of reminds me of, this kind of feels like it's tying into the whole adoption storyline. It's gotta be, right?
Themes and motifs and stuff like that,
The Doctor plugs the sonic screwdriver like a USB to stabilize the ship, which I kind of like. I kind of like the sonic screwdriver being a USB thing sometimes.
Sure.
It works.
Sure, it's whatever. The sonic. I'm choosing to not think about the sonic screwdriver because I dislike it. I dislike how it looks. I dislike mainly how it looks. That's the.
I'm still waiting to hear why Russell T Davies explicitly wants this to be the new design. I know we had that.
I'm really curious as to how long it lasts.
I don't
like
know.
as a design. Because, like, he had no problem giving fucking David Tennant his big gun. I mean,
It's
his
really
his
weird.
screwdriver shape. It definitely didn't look like the guns. So I don't understand his whole sudden backtracking on, like, fucking... Actually, we needed to make it look less violent and make it look like a TV remote so everyone remembers to fucking change the channel.
But we do get some nice commentary about refugees here. Because they're a space station, they can't physically go to this planet to drop off the babies. They can't fucking move, and the planet won't come to them because that's not how refugees work. They have to physically get there, but they can't, which is kind of nice. I'm not sure about the fucking ending where they repel themselves by using the fucking baby farts.
I'll have you know that it is the only good thing in this episode. So it's terrible. It's so bad.
And also, that's the same thing that falls with the TARDIS. What's fucking stopping the spaceship from crash landing onto this planet? Why? I don't understand why the Doctor doesn't simply give him a lift on the TARDIS. Like, once you got rid of the boogeyman, it's fine, you know? It's really bizarre.
It's not like, and it's not like, you know, before you could maybe give the excuse, even though, you know, the TARDIS is an infinite space, but the console room has been pretty small in the past. He's got the biggest fucking console room ever right now. You could easily fit every single child in there and have room to fucking run around still.
There's only like fucking 8 babies or something. Like, that's not a lot. Even with the old TARDISes. Like, they're fucking babies. But okay.
But, I mean, if you start asking why doesn't the Doctor just put them in the TARDIS, so many episodes are going to fall apart.
Yeah. The Doctor is really hyper fixated on the boogeyman all of a sudden for some reason. I think there's a lot about the boogeyman that's being cut out of the episode because the Doctor just suddenly fixates on this.
It felt like such a weak villain. It felt like so not there in the episode. Like, they had like one scene where they're like, oh my god, run away, and then it was like not a threat.
Which I'm fine with if you're trying to do the whole Rose thing where the villain is the least important thing on the totem pole.
Yeah.
You know, the whole important thing is introduce the new characters and new concepts to new viewers. Like the concept of the show, essentially. Which I think it kind of does a good job of, but too much exposition. Without the exposition,
does a good job.
Without the exposition, I think it would work. You know, if you cut the exposition to like only 25%, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I think you'd need to rewrite the exposition.
Yeah.
And get rid of most of it, as you say, but yeah.
So baby Eric zooms in to try and stop the boogeyman 27 minutes into the episode, which is way too late for this plot to be kicking in, you know? Basically, they run out to wherever they are, and they try and find Eric. They can't find Eric. They're like, oh shit, the boogeyman killed Eric. But then the Doctor smells a big poo, and he finds Eric in the floorboards or whatever. Because Eric shot himself is the big joke of this scene.
It's relatable.
All the fucking shit talk and bogey talk. This isn't so. I guess that you can count for Slovene. This isn't new for Russell T Davies, I guess. The Slovene.
Sure,
exists,
yeah. He's done body humor, potty humor, whatever you want to call it, stuff before.
But this is taken to 11.
Although it like the Slovene stuff and like the farting jokes and the things like that, they feel very season 1 2005 era. Like they feel cheesy and they feel bad, but like they feel kind of off the time for 2005, but they still feel out of place because it's like, oh, you're still figuring out what Doctor Who is in series 1. You get way less fart jokes in every other series of Doctor Who after that, and for it to suddenly revert back to, oh no, we're doing fart jokes and stuff again. I'm like, what is? I thought we got over this. I thought we figured out that this isn't what we were doing with Doctor Who. You know.
Nani is basically over the intercom, and her swears get filtered out, which isn't funny at all, but Russell T Davies seems to think it's the funniest thing in the universe because he does the whole swear joke about 5 times, I think. One of the things that Nani says is, don't touch them, you illegitimate person, which I think is an Alien reference. Get away from her, you bitch. It feels like it.
I guess it feels like I don't know. It's like a I get yeah, okay. I can see how you're trying to make how that connection could be made, but it's such a mouthful. Like, get away from her, you bitch. Like, just like that's got impact. Get away from her, you illegitimate person. That's no impact to it at all. There's no there's no teeth
because of the filtered system.
Okay.
It works. And then another Alien reference is Poppy comes in, I guess the leader baby. Comes in with a flamethrower, which is something.
Sure. Yeah.
The Doctor really wants to figure out the alien on his own. Ruby refuses to let him go on his own. The Doctor concludes that the alien is leaving or something. I don't know. This is the point of the episode where Ruby slips on the bogies. We find out that the machine made the snot monster because it thought it was organic life. This is the whole point where the Doctor says...
I hated this episode.
So Nani gives him directions to find the alien, and she plans to blast the alien into space, which is, again, fucking Alien.
Mm-hmm.
And the Doctor's like, no, fucking don't do that. It's an organic life, it's innocent. It didn't choose to be on this world. It's just doing what comes natural to it or whatever. And the Doctor remembers himself talking about being the last of his kind. And this is the point of the episode where the Doctor actively wants to stop the genocide of this bogey monster.
Yeah.
Which, the Doctor stopping genocide is something we haven't seen in a long time.
The Doctor's usually the one perpetrating in the genocide.
Yes.
They're usually the reason it's happening. So yeah, it's this version of the Doctor feels very unfamiliar to the previous versions of the Doctor we've been having.
And then the Doctor makes the ship fart, and the Doctor almost swears, and that's the last of the swear jokes. And then this is 40 minutes into the episode is wrapping up now, so we only had a proper half hour on this Space Babies storyline here. But Ruby gets a TARDIS key. The Doctor says he can't take Ruby to the church because they'll fall into a massive paradox, which I feel like is going to tie into a future episode where the Doctor has to take her back to the church and create a paradox. Yeah. This feels like it's something that's going to happen, because why drop that line here, So yeah, they go to the flat. The Doctor tears a roof, tears a hole into the roof. Which is, the Doctor's like, hey, tell your mum not to slap me. And he does a wee scan on Ruby. It doesn't really reveal anything. We just kind of leave it there. There's nothing... Yeah. It doesn't even say, oh, she's 100% human. We just kind of... The Doctor leaves before the information is presented to him. And the episode ends before the information is presented to the audience. So I don't understand what we're supposed to gain from that.
All you need to know is he scanned her. Somebody was scanned, and that's definitely what happened. A garbage episode... A terrible garbage episode. I haven't rewatched it. I might rewatch it at some point in the coming few days or the coming week or something like that. But just thinking about it again and talking about it, and I think I dislike it more now than I did when I watched it. I really did not like this episode. What did you think?
When I watched it for a second time earlier, I think I enjoyed it a little bit more because I caught things I missed the first time. Not too many things, not significant things. But the plot did make more sense in my head, and I can kind of accept the the campiness is just not the best way to present yourself for the first time
It's
to
not,
brand new people. It's kind of
it's
insane.
it is kind of insane, and it's not really, I think. I don't know if it's the vibe I was expecting Doctor Who to come back with. You know, I'm all for silly, wacky Doctor Who, but I do enjoy the serious parts in Doctor Who, and I enjoy the dramatic parts and the character parts and the relationship parts. And if those are pushed to the back and we just continue with wacky races, I feel like I'm going to get really sour as the series goes on. But I'm hoping this is just the light, wacky half, and then the lighter half is going to be, more plot driven and more character driven, but we'll see.
Because if we go back to series 1, the first half is goofy, lighthearted, and then we get to Dalek, and then every episode after Dalek is like heavy hitting, basically. Like that last half of season 1 is fucking incredible.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's following a similar pattern. But Scott, I've pulled up the old classic Gallifrey base, as I'm one to do when we review brand new episodes of Doctor Who. There is a poll, as always, when there's new episodes of Doctor Who. What do you think the people of Gallifrey base have rated this episode out of 10? What do you think is the general consensus?
I would imagine like most of the votes are kind of like in the mid tier, either a 4, 5, or 6. I'm going to land on a 6.
Okay, so coming in at first place is, of course, 6 out of 10. That is just a cut above average with 220 votes. However, this episode has split the audience in ways that I have never seen before. 8 out of 10 has 11.2%.
Wow. Okay.
3 out of 10 has 12%. 1 out of 10 has 11.5%. 5 out of 10 has 11.5%. Every single number from 1 to 8 has got 150 votes or more.
Okay.
The 9 and 10 are 20 and 30 votes. Like, most people didn't think it was a 9 out of 10. But 8 and below has split the audience almost into clean fractions of people. Like, it is an insane split of 10%, 14%, 16%, 11%, 8%, 12%, 9%, 11%. Like, that is crazy division of mixed opinions, I guess is the way you would describe this. It got mixed reactions.
On IMDb, the average rating is 5.8 out of 10, which feels like it should be there. It feels like it.
Yeah.
Because,
reading some of the comments people have left on this episode. Brilliant. A fun, campy series opener in the RTD style of old. Cat nuns, rhinos on the moon, space babies. I didn't like the talking babies, and I thought the whole episode was going to derail from that point, but thankfully they pulled it back. Millie Gibson is amazing, and Ncuti was much better as the Doctor here than in The Church on Ruby Road. On to the next. That's Raymond Luxury Yachts comment. I disagree with a lot of what they just said. But hey, you're entitled to your own opinion, I guess. This is from Mapo6. I didn't really enjoy it. I found the last 2 episodes too childish with singing goblins, space babies, and a literal bogeyman. That's a really good point. That's a very valid point. I don't like Gatwa's Doctor very much so far. I don't mind having a younger Doctor necessarily, but he doesn't have the old professor trapped in a younger man's body like Matt Smith's portrayal had. That's also fair, but I will say it did take like a whole season before that professor that came out in Matt Smith again. Like, he was wacky dude, and then it was like, actually, I'm the sad inside. Yeah, and that was his whole.
Fucking Sylvester McCoy went through the same arc. Season 1, he's a clown. Season 3, he's like the trickster. He's like, I'm
sad inside, actually. Yeah.
Fucking Capaldi went through the opposite arc.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. He went from grouchy to wacky. So it's fair to say that opinions were mixed on this one. Hang on, this is an interesting comment. Well, that was terrible. as a parent, I, quite understandably, have a passionate hatred of babies. And I can't begin to describe my loathing for cute talking babies. As soon as they appeared, it was over for me. This series better up its game sharpest. There's only 7 episodes left. Arg. That's another thing as well. We're comparing this to series 1 of Eccleston's run. That's like 10, 12 episodes or something.
Yeah.
This is 8.
We've already seen 25% of this season. Isn't that insane?
It's a bummer. Yeah, and it's not good. It's been a bad 25%. So yeah, we shall see what people's reactions are as the time goes on. I think that this episode's going to age badly. Yeah. I don't think this is going to be one we look back at fondly.
This might be a situation where I tell people, go from the church on Ruby Road and go into the Devil's Choir, because the Devil's Chord feels much more appropriate for a season opener. I think it's got most of the right elements that I look for in Doctor Who. It doesn't quite land. It doesn't quite land all the notes. Ha ha ha. But yeah, it's solid. We'll get into it.
We will indeed. We'll get into it right away. I don't really have much else to say.
But yeah, if you're enjoying this video, feel free to give us a like. You usually do all this stuff, but you want to go ahead?
Oh yeah,
we might as well do it in the middle.
If you're enjoying this video, be sure to give us a like and give us a comment. Subscribe to us here on YouTube at Who Watches Who Pod. Or we're also available in audio form, where you can listen to us in your earballs all day long on your commute to work, or your commute to school, or your commute to one side of your house to the other, where we talk about Doctor Who every Friday at 8 a.m, except for the times when we are late. Then we upload them at different times. Also,
or in this period where
we're in this muddy area where we're just uploading when we have time, because episodes are airing at midnight and the whole world's gone to fucking chaos. Cats and dogs living together. But subscribe to us, things like that. We have a Discord. There's a bunch of links in the description where you can listen into episodes live as we are recording them. You can chat all things Doctor Who and other things with us. I have a book that you can buy. Called Can You Taste the Color Orange? If you want some sci-fi that has 0 talking babies. There is no talking babies in my book. Not a single one. And there never shall be. So feel free to check that out if you want a little bit less talking babies in your life. But other than that, we shall continue on talking about Doctor Who as we move straight in to the Devil's Chord. And just remember, Scott, that there's always a twist at the end. There is always a twist at the end.
But we'll get to the end. But yeah, this episode opens up in 1925, which is the same year the fucking toy maker came to Earth, as seen in The Giggle. So this is all happening at the same time, essentially. Which kind of begs the question of why they didn't deal with this, and I don't know, because it is weird that this takes place at directly at the same time as the Giggle. It's kind
although I guess they solved this problem in the 60s, whereas they don't solve the problems in the Giggle until 2020 fucking 3. So that's when in 2023 they had no idea that this problem happened in the 60s because it was a different incarnation of the Doctor. Timey-wimey.
Yeah, they really. This season especially goes into the why didn't the Doctor do this? Why didn't the Doctor have to deal with this before? Because history got rewritten.
And they do it like almost straight away with this episode when they end up in the 60s. And they go out onto the roof overlooking London, and the Doctor's just like, Susan's over there. I just kind of left her. I just left her. I never looked at her again.
He didn't just leave her. He left her in a post-apocalyptic world with a man she barely fucking knows. She's like 15. The guy's like 22. She looks at him once, and he's like, "Oh, I guess we're gonna get married now." And then he doesn't fucking check up on her after his entire race got genocided twice.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
He's a really shitty grandfather.
But this
I
episode,
appreciated.
yeah.
I did like when they mentioned Susan, because I always pop whenever they reference lore.
Yeah.
And Susan in particular, because it's such a blind spot in the show. It's such an insane blind spot in the show that she just hasn't been talked about. You know?
It's kind of insane. The last time we saw Susan on screen was in the 20th anniversary of the Five Doctors in 1983. And John Nathan Turner is like, no, we're going to cut all reference to her being the Doctor's grandchild because we don't want to imply the Doctor fucks. So the entire time, there's no reference to any relationship. There's no fucking scene where Peter Davison is like, hey, how you doing? Nothing like that. It's just, it's very bizarre. We'll get into that. I'm looking forward to that. But to open up the episode, we'll talk a bit more about Susan later on. I have theories.
Okay.
So this episode opens up with a man called Timothy Drake giving this young kid piano lessons. He introduces the kid to the Devil's Chord, which is a wild thing for a guy to do in 1925. I feel like he would be a bit more religious, but...
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
And this is where Jinx comes out to the piano. So a few things to note. Timothy Drake, the guy who plays him, his dad actually wrote music for Doctor Who in the 80s in stories like The Keeper of Traken, The Caves of Androzoni, and The Revelation of the Daleks. So it's kind of cool that we have legacy cast in here, you know. Your dad wrote music, why not join the show as an actor? That's fun. He does give a good performance here, the guy. It's only one scene because he gets murdered at the end, right?
Yeah, it's classic Doctor Who. Everyone's got to
die. But basically Timothy Drake, which again is a Batman reference, right? that's the name of Robin.
Oh yeah, Tim Drake. Yeah.
What a wild thing. But the guy's like, hey, who's he? And this is when Jinx Monsoon, I said the name right. This is where Jinx is like, yeah, I go by they, which I'm surprised we haven't seen too many angry people going on about pronouns. I'm happy compared to the fucking Star Beast, where we had to endure those conversations for a while.
I think it's just because the 60th anniversary is like a special event, so it brings out all of the creeps that don't actually watch the show. You know, it's just the people that are there like, oh, this is a big thing that's happening right now. What's this about? I guess I'll shit on it. Whereas this is series 1 of a TV show that they're never going to watch, so you're going to hear less of them just because they won't watch the show. I find it interesting, and I'm just putting this out here. I haven't actually fully completed this thought. Thinking about Jinx Monsoon as Maestro, who I fucking loved. I thought it was an incredible performance, such a strong villain, and is like the Bowser Jr. to Neil Patrick Harris's Toymaker. You know, like, it's superb. Absolutely, really, really liked them as a villain, and how they were portrayed and all that. Why, like, LGBTQ plus people and non-binary people, these are a minority. You know, these are people that have been abused and subjugated and prosecuted throughout human history. Why has Russell T Davies got no problem showing them as a villain, but he won't have Davros in a wheelchair? Where the fuck is the logical consistency?
Yeah. Like the first drag queen in Doctor Who, and I can remember, maybe there's like an extra in another episode that's a drag queen. Yeah. But the first main drag queen on the show, and it's a villain. But yeah, you know. His whole there's no through logic there at all. There's, you know, it's saying one thing and doing another, you know. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre, but I am happy we have Jinx in the show, because
I'm all for it. I'm all for fucking gay villains and straight villains and disabled villains. Fucking, it doesn't matter. It only feels weird when you make a point of explicitly saying no disabled villains, but every other villain villains okay, just they're not allowed to be disabled. Like, it's like, what the fuck were you talking about? Like,
Yeah, this is one of the things I would love to ask Russell D. Davis. Like, what is your thought process? Because
yeah, how are you
know,
connecting these dots? Like,
because he does have some bizarre. He has given some bizarre statements recently. The whole sonic screwdriver thing as well.
Yeah.
It's just I can't work out what's in his head like 25% of the time. It's kind of bizarre, but yeah.
yeah, I just thought I'd highlight it because it's just a weird little nugget where I'm like, well, I don't understand what you're like. Message you're trying to get across, because you're making an explicit point saying one thing and then ignoring that point in the next episode, you know.
And speaking of not understanding what's going on here, there's a point where I think they either say it flat out or they imply it, but the kid is Maestro's son. Like, the kid calls Maestro.
Yeah, the kid
Daddy.
The kid was like Maestro's like puppet or something. Like, the kid was the Harbinger. That was because that was their name shortened. So they were there to bring Maestro in. I don't understand how or why, but I guess that maybe they were just there to allow Maestro to enter this dimension, and then Maestro fucking zaps him.
This is probably one of the things that got cut out of the final episode, because there feels like there's a lot left on the cutting room floor. The whole Beatles, they leave 15 minutes in, and they don't come in again till like 45 minutes. Which
they also don't need to be in the episode.
No, they don't at all. But
Yeah.
we'll get into that. So Maestro basically is like, yeah, you lived your life as like a piano teacher for kids. You must feel humiliated. All that music's wrapped up inside of you and you can't get it out. Let me get it out. And this is a very fun kill. I really like this little music sequence, because she takes out the music from this guy and kills him with it, which is fun. I really like it. And then Jinx I say she because I think Jinx goes by she, her pronouns, which I need to, because I know the character goes by they, them, but I think Jinx, I need to double check this.
Pronouns. What a
Pronouns.
World, imagine.
Yeah, I think she does use she, them. But, but then Jinx plays the theme song to the show, which is very
I like
fun
that. That
sequence.
was cute.
I like
that was cute. Yeah. And there's this whole running theme in this episode, which has been a complaint that I've seen online a couple times. There's a lot of fourth wall breaks in this episode. Jinx playing the theme is obviously a fourth wall break. They look into the camera lens 1,000 fucking times. The Doctor looks into the camera lens in this episode. And
the Doctor,
there's the whole musical sequence. And
the Doctor has the line of, "Oh, I thought that music was non-diegetic." Like, that's a fucking line from the Doctor.
Yeah,
that's the most fourth wall breaking he's done since Capaldi, I think.
Yeah, I don't think Jodie really broke the fourth wall ever, as far as I can remember.
But yeah, we cut into the TARDIS. The TARDIS is playing the end of the theme song, which, again, I like. It's fun. And then Ruby's like, yeah, I fucking want to go see the Beatles. Let's go fucking see the Beatles. Which feels like... It's such a weird level of enthusiasm to give when it's been 6 months in the TARDIS. Like
6 months in the TARDIS, yeah, you're like, I guess the Beatles is on my list of things. Like, if I've got like this huge list, I guess we'll get around to the Beatles. Like 6 months in a time machine, I don't really know how that works, but it's a long time. It's a lot of days. You've seen a lot of things. You've done a lot of things. The Beatles, you're not that enthusiastic. You're like, fuck it, we've not been here yet. Like.
So yeah, it's February 11th, 1963, which is... The Doctor fucking loves 1963.
Who didn't?
And then Ruby's like, hey, we need a clothes change. And then we get a really fun... I do wish... It feels like there should have been a sequence where they're trying to pick out clothes. You know, like a shopping sequence of them in different costumes, because... They spent a lot of money on costumes this season.
I guess it would be very similar to Jodie getting her costume.
I guess.
When she goes into the charity shop and she just fucking like raids everything.
But But I just want to see the TARDIS wardrobe again. We haven't seen the TARDIS wardrobe since the Christmas invasion.
An interesting thing as well is they spent so much money building the interior of this TARDIS, but we haven't seen any other rooms, have we? It's just this big white. It's just this big white empty space. It feels like a lot of wasted space.
Yeah,
if it's just these ramps and doorways that do nothing,
yeah.
you know.
Because we thought Shirikawa might start building furniture, you know,
doing something with it.
Every now and again, you pop off to IKEA.
Yeah, so there's just a jukebox and fucking nothing else.
But they're in the 60s. They dance across the road. Basically, they get into EMI by asking I don't know what you would call her, a cafeteria worker, or an assistant.
Oh, the tea lady.
Yeah. Where something about Janet, and she's like always a Janet in these places, which I
thought it was whatever
the last
dialogue.
time I met when was the last time you met a Janet?
Yeah, but to be fair, if I ever met a Janet, she was definitely alive in the 60s.
Right. And this is where we first get our glimpse into the Beatles, and these actors are pretty decent. I don't have any complaints for the amount of screen time they have in this episode. They're pretty decent.
They're not on screen long enough for me to really recognize how badly they look, because they don't look a thing like the Beatles. They get the voices okay, and their acting is fine. But yeah, this whole episode is marketed as the Beatles episode.
Yep.
That was the thing. And the Beatles aren't in this episode really at all. They do almost nothing. Mm-hmm. And did you see the TikTok from the guy that played one of the Beatles?
Yeah, I did.
He's not even in the episode. He's not there. You know,
So yeah, the Beatles get introduced at minute 8 of the episode. They leave the plot about minute 15, and then they don't come back until the very end, where John Lennon plays a few notes on the keyboard, and then nothing happens after that. They're only in it for less than 5 minutes of screen time, I must say.
Also, when John Lennon goes to play the piano, and we see that whole flashback where he's remembering that part. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck does this mean? Why is he remembering this right now?
It's because it's been half an hour and nobody fucking remembers the Beatles were even in this fucking episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get the whole song of the dog. They love a dog. And then we go to Cilla Black, who's in another room. I don't know if you know who Cilla Black is, but she was a singer in the 60s, and then she became a TV personality. She hosted a million shows. She hosted Blind Date as well. Like, she is an icon in the industry. Like, a lot of people like her. So, and the actress who plays Cilla Black in this episode went on Twitter and said, "Yeah, most of my scenes were cut." She's only in this episode for 2 scenes, which is kind of sad. But yeah, you can tell there's a lot on the cutting room floor in this episode, and I guess Cilla Black was the biggest victim of this episode's editing.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, we got an orchestra playing Three Blind Mice really badly. And then 10 minutes into the episode, we get to the canteen, and we're like, hey, where did the music go? The history is altered. I think Finland is about to enter a war. If this never happened. And this is the part of the episode that reminded me heavily of the Legends of Tomorrow episode. We did cover it, but it's unusable footage. So the episode we were going to cover was the George Lucas episode, where John Barrowman and his mates basically go back in time and try and kick out George Lucas out of film school, essentially. They scare him off from doing films, and he leaves film school in a dramatic fashion. And the whole episode is spent trying to get George Lucas the courage back. He has to believe in himself. Like, what line is really actually bad in the show? It's really bad.
Really bad episode of TV, yeah.
And it reminded me of this because the Doctor and Ruby basically, I think the Doctor takes McCartney and Ruby takes Lennon, and we're basically like, yeah, but we need you. Well, I'm not good at anything, is what the Beatles say. And we're basically giving up, and we have to give them a speech to inspire them again. But This scene makes me think there was more in the original story of this whole believe in yourself stuff with the Beatles, because after this scene we get dropped from the story. There's nothing left for them to do.
I'd be really curious to see what these episodes look like at their full runtime with nothing cut. Like, how long are these episodes that they're getting cut this much that nothing feels complete? Like, everything feels half done because you've cut off the middle bit or you've cut off the end bit, you know, to get this into a specific runtime. Like what the how long were your scripts? How did you not know that this episode was going to run on too long or whatnot? You know, I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't know. I can't think of any reasoning.
This episode has too many sequences that were too expensive. You know, there's the cold opening, Ruby playing piano on the roof, the whole scene of showing the future, and also the final dance sequence. Like, when you're in an editing room, you're given all this stuff, and basically they're like, yeah, you can't remove the most expensive stuff. So you can't remove the dance sequence at the end because we spent 3 weeks trying to shoot that and rehearse it and get it choreographed and all that stuff. That's the most expensive sequence, so we can't cut that. That means you've lost 3 minutes out of the episode. And that's 3 minutes of plot in the episode that you've now lost. Which is where it's a messy episode, but it's more fun, I would say.
It's definitely more fun, and I think the performances are more memorable because I mean they're not babies. No one's going to remember the baby's performance and think that was a really good performance from that baby, but you're going to remember the villain in this episode because Jinx Monsoon is legitimately chewing the scenery. Like, they're doing so fucking good at, like, being creepy and extravagant and weird and not pulling you out of the episode. Like, somehow it fits the tone still. They're an incredible villain. Love them.
I'm kind of bummed out that she's in this episode, though, because I don't think she can come back. It's a weird thing, because you have run into the problem of it's so fucking easy to defeat you, because we can just play a piano, you know? It's so fucking easy. Bing.
Yeah.
So McCartney then sings a song in the canteen, and there's a slow motion shot of the Doctor dropping the spoon, and in every reflection, Jinx Monsoon appears, which I really dig.
And how did you feel about this being a sequel episode, by the way? Because this is a direct sequel episode to.
It's a bit too soon.
The Toymaker one's called.
It's a bit too soon for a sequel episode to something from 4 episodes ago. Yeah, it's. But I was happy enough, you know. As I was expecting it to be a sequel episode, so.
I wasn't. It was a surprise for me. I thought I was quite pleasantly surprised by it. I was like, oh shit, nice.
So we then cut to the Doctor getting some workmen to lift a piano on top of the roof, which makes me think these are old mates of the Doctor, you know, like.
What I'm curious about.
Yes.
What? I'm just trying to, again, internal logic in these episodes. If Jinx in the 20s stopped music,
yes,
why 40 years later are they still making pianos?
Yes. I mean, I guess the music industry still exists because EMI is a functioning studio. But even the Beatles are making music, and they're like, nobody likes music. This is shit. I can't wait to go back and get a proper job. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you even here then? Why the fuck does June Hudson have a piano in her sitting room later on?
Yeah. There's a lot of logical inconsistencies, I guess, with the setup. To this story in this world. There's a lot of things that don't quite make sense. I understand wanting to open up the episode in 1925 because that's when the Toymaker lands on Earth, and you want to tie into the Toymaker. But yeah, that 40-year gap is a bit too long for the plot to work, because
I feel like like when the Doctor takes Ruby to the future, I feel like that future should have happened by now, right? After 40 years. If music,
Yeah.
if having a lack of music causes people to go to war, why does it take 40
like a
years?
century? It takes like a whole century. Yeah.
I mean, also, when he's in the future showing the apocalypse, I think you see like a 60s bus in the background, which is still kind of confusing.
I don't know. I wasn't paying that much attention.
But yeah, this is a scene where the Doctor talks about being a grandfather, and he mentions children, which I don't think he ever does. Like, when was the last time the Doctor talked about having children? Like, it's always his grandchild. This is the most he's talked about Susan in a long time.
I know, Doctor Who. Again, I think it's maybe Matt Smith talked about him having kids at one point, or David Tennant, but they never say it directly. They always allude to it, where they're like, my family that I've had, and then a companion's like, wait, you had a family? And he's like, oh, in another life, and then he just moves on, like he never explicitly is like, yeah, I had a family, I had a wife, and I had kids, and, we had cousins and brothers and uncles, and I had grandchildren, and then I left them, and they're all dead now, and I never look back. But yeah, I did like how they set up the stuff with Susan where it's like, I don't know if she regenerated. I don't know if she just got blinked out of existence because of the button. Although, again, I don't know how that works because he says that he doesn't know if Susan just got like zapped from the Time War or something when that happened. But if we remember correctly, nobody got zapped in the Time War. They got moved into a bubble universe so that they were secretly safe, and then the Doctor brought them back into this universe where the Master genocided them and turned them into Cybermen. So there is zero reason why Susan couldn't still be alive. Like, there's no way in hell Susan died in the Time War. At all. There's no logic through line there.
It's really confusing. And yeah, this is what happens.
That's what happens when you genocide a planet twice.
But yeah, Ruby then spends about 3 minutes of screen time playing her own theme song here. She wrote it for her friend Trudy when a girl broke her heart, and later on when it's referred back to, this is Jinx Monsoon using the word lesbian for the first time on the show, which is kind of wild. 875 episodes in for that word to never be uttered on screen. Kind of insane.
You're running out of words.
But yeah, Jinx Monsoon comes out to the piano here, and we're 20 minutes in, and this is the first time Jinx Monsoon has anything to do in the episode.
That's crazy. Yeah, they don't really do much of anything in the episode at all. Maestro, like they show up, they get rid of music, they scare the Doctor, and then the Doctor beats them.
That's because we just spent 3 minutes with Ruby playing the piano, which is beautiful. I love that sequence. But again, when you have 3 minutes just spent on a character playing the piano, the plot isn't moving. There's no plot here. Like, obviously the people around the area is hearing the music, and that's when music comes back into the thing, because she immediately goes and kills June Hudson, who was, obviously, we talked about her before. She designed the second costume for the Fourth Doctor when he's in the plum outfit. But yeah, then the Doctor and Ruby decide to hide from Jinx because she does the giggle, which is a direct reference here. The Doctor's like, oh, she did the giggle. And Ruby's just not questioning it. Like,
yeah, she's totally... Ruby is very much on board with anything that's happening at any given moment. She's just there for the Doctor.
Again, it could be a line that just fell casualty to the to all the extended sequences here. The Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver when he's hiding underneath a basement. He produces a big light and causes everything around him to become silent, which is kind of... I really liked the sequence here. It was cool.
It was fun. I liked the Doctor running away from Jinx. As much as it's a back-to-back episodes of the Doctor running away, and I didn't like it with the Bogeyman. I like it with Jinx because, you know, you've got that motif with the Toymaker, you've got that continuing through line, the sequel episode, the Doctor's remembering things that happened to a previous incarnation, like there's canon happening here and logic, and it makes sense that the Doctor would be a little bit scared about the things that are going on. I dislike that it plays zero impact later at all. Like, it's just like, oh, I'm scared for one scene and then I'll beat you right after that.
So the Doctor, when the Doctor decides to hide, Ruby has the line of, "Oh, you never hide," which is so bizarre to come.
It's literally just hid in the last episode. Yeah,
but just like, this is when things clicked in my head. Oh, there must have been some time between episodes, because why would you say you never hide to someone you just met? And it's really bizarre. Again, just have a 6-month jump 3 episodes in. It doesn't make sense to me. It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is when June Hudson gets murdered. She jumps out of the piano. I presume kids are gonna be scared of pianos now, right?
Sure. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
The Doctor talks about being split in half here. He says, that thing must be part of a pantheon. The Toymaker tore my soul in half, and I can't survive that again. Which is interesting. I didn't think of it as something the Doctor couldn't survive again. I'm still unclear about how being split in half works.
How the it just adds more confusion to how the bi-generation works, because if it's the Doctor literally got split in half,
but then Russell T Davies also likes to run with a fan theory of every Doctor got split in half after that. Like, it's not 100% canon, but it's like, you could presume that, which is what he says. But it doesn't make sense if he can't survive it more than once.
I'm choosing not to think about it. I'm just choosing. I have my own semi-coherent idea of why and how the bi-generation works. Nothing on screen has explicitly said that is wrong, so I'm choosing to believe in that and not any of the fucking shenanigans that Russell T Davies is making up when he's on the toilet.
But yeah, our next scene is Ruby going, "Hey, I'm from 2023. The world can't end here." And this is the extended sequence of the Doctor taking Ruby into the TARDIS and showing the future that could be rewritten. This is a scene that's a direct reference to the Pyramids of Mars. Russell really wanted to do the same sequence in The Unquiet Dead, which was also the second, or was it the third story of Series 1? But yeah, it's a sequence that Russell wanted to do 20 years ago, but didn't have the budget for. And I wish he didn't do it here, because this is another 4 minutes wasted on this sequence when you could have had a bit more plot into the episode. And then when we're in the future, the void kind of opens up and we're in a black space. And this is the first time the Doctor has a proper conversation with Jinx 29 minutes into the episode.
That's insane. That's insane. In a 45-minute episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
50 minutes, maybe.
There's 20 minutes left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, I don't know why. And this is the point of the episode where I'm like, oh, now the second act is beginning. But we're half an hour in. Like, it feels like there's no second act to this episode. Like, because after this, it's just like the Doctor running towards the finish line, essentially. I don't understand why this is edited like this. It's so bizarre.
There's a lot that I don't understand in this run of Doctor Who, and I'm hoping, beyond all hope, that by the time we get to the end of this, we will look back on these episodes and be like, oh, okay, I understand what you were doing now. This all had a purpose. This all had a reason. We just didn't see it. You're so clever. All praise you. Because I feel like we're kind of in a bizarro land from when Flux was airing. Because
Yeah.
if you remember when Flux was airing and those first 2 episodes came out, we were like, Doctor Who is back! Fuck yeah! Best episodes in forever. This is excellent. Nowhere to go but up. And then progressively we got more and more sour because the story and the structure and everything fell apart and nothing made sense. Now we're at a point in the new series where everything is already fallen apart and doesn't make sense. So hopefully by the time we get to the end, it's been put back together rather than torn apart. But we'll see.
But yeah, this is when Jinx gets to actually fucking sing in the episode. Like, they made that mistake with Neil Patrick Harris, not allowing him to sing. I'm glad they didn't make the same mistake twice. Although, you have a villain, but it's musical. Why not give her a full-length musical number? Why save it?
Why do the bad musical number at the end? Yeah.
Like, having a villain song, like, 20 minutes into the episode would have been so much cooler, rather than the dance sequence at the very end. Like, go creative, you know? You could have a whole creative sequence. What is the Doctor doing during this whole villain number, you know? Like, you go creative with visuals or something. She's basically like, hey, you need to be a genius to banish me with music. And then in the very next scene, the Doctor gets so fucking close to banishing her. Like, it fucking does not matter. Like, he got one note wrong.
I also, with the whole note thing, because he gets the note wrong and Jinx fucking kicks the piano out, and that's when fucking John Lennon comes up. I saw this tweet and it was like, why did John Lennon, just who was aimlessly walking these corridors, turn the corner, see a piano with floating musical notes above it? He hates music, and he decides, you know what? I'm just gonna bring like what drove him to do that? What inside him made him choose to do this?
And also, like, that reminds me of the end music battle. I thought it was going to be so much more creative than it actually is.
It was really flat, yeah. It was
like the Doctor plays the piano, Jinx plays a violin, and the only creative flourishes on there is musical notes kind of float up. You could have done anything, you know. You could have had more visual nuances in there, but instead it's just, the only special effect is musical notes. That's really not good enough. It's so anticlimactic, you know.
Yeah. It was. I hope these are the weakest episodes in the series,
hope so.
And that's why they've just front loaded them. So it's like we'll get the weak to mid, because like Devil's Chord I did like it,
same,
but it has got some major problems still. Like it is far from a flawless episode.
And like the whole sequence of Jinx, the Doctor, and Ruby in a black void is essentially what the toy maker did with the puppets.
I did like it though. I did like that bit
it's
where
great.
It suddenly became stylized. I was like, fuck yeah, we're doing stuff.
And there's like a slide projection on the wall of London. I really like the touch there, but you know, it feels like it could be a bit more of a creative location to use. I don't know.
I don't know. It's a black soundstage is like the most iconic Doctor Who location possible. So.
But yeah, she basically controls the TARDIS here, because I guess the TARDIS does make musical noises when it's landing. I guess is the point here, because when the Doctor lands back in 1963, the TARDIS is completely fucked. I don't know if this is a permanent issue or if it's something that gets resolved, but it feels like there should have been a line here of, the TARDIS is working again. Like, you know, the Doctor just looking at the TARDIS, hearing the weird noise it's making. He's concerned for like a second, and then nothing. He doesn't bring it up again. That's really bizarre. Feels like something was cut here.
Yeah.
Again,
it's so interesting to think about, it would be really interesting to look at the deleted scenes for these episodes.
I need to read the script here because there's so much that was cut out. But Jinx has kidnapped Ruby. She's holding her up in the air with musical notes, and this is the scene where Ruby's heart sings. And there's a hidden song deep inside her soul.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. It'll be explained later.
The carol of the bells play, the Christmas songs plays, and it starts snowing again. And then Jinx has the line of, how can a song have so much power? And power like him, the oldest one, on the night of her birth? He can't have been there. What for? It's too obvious.
It's really bad. It was even worse when Jinx was getting sucked back into the piano, and they just straight up are going like, the one who waits is coming soon, by the way, the big villain, bye. It's like, what the fuck? Like,
I wish you could just drop some of that stuff and just have a scene at the end of the episode where the Doctor's in the TARDIS alone and he's distracted, and Ruby's like, hey, what's wrong? And the Doctor's like, oh, something doesn't feel right. I feel like something's going to happen. I feel like this isn't the end of these powerful creatures or whatever. Yeah. And, you could have the Doctor sensing oncoming doom rather than the villain being like, yeah, there's more to come.
The bad guy's coming, by the way. There's a bigger bad guy than me. I'm just a mini boss. I'm not the actual boss.
The Doctor and Ruby do get stuck inside the instruments, but that's not really exciting. It's I feel like something more creative could have happened.
I don't even remember that happening.
The Doctor gets stuck inside of the drum. I think Ruby gets stuck inside of the violin.
Okay, yeah. No, yeah, I remember now.
And it's such a nothing moment. And then they're back on the rooftop, and the Doctor's like, oh, with all my adventures in time and space, I must warn you, there is always a twist in the end. And then we get our fucking musical number.
And then we get our musical number. We get our wonderful, wonderful musical number.
Yeah, the lyrics make so much sense, It really resonated with me.
The lyrics are really, really good. I have them here. I'm just going to read them because I really enjoyed them. There's always a twist at the end. That's your chorus that repeats several times. But the core, bit of the lyrics. My friend, depend, press send, let's bend. Because there is always, hey. There's always a twist at the end. Hey, hey, hey. We've got the bop and the rock and the Lindy hop. We got the jive, beehive, and the stayin' alive. We got the conga and the salsa and the mighty big bopper. The waltz and the schmaltz and no penalties for faults. There's always a twist chorus. Pretend, descend, land's end, make do and mend. Because there's always a twist at the end. Hey. There's always a twist at the end. There's always a twist at the end. We ain't no fools from Liverpool. Why you gotta do Dan dirty? Because there's always a twist at the end. I always said that it ends with a twist. That's one good thing that can't be missed. Have a smashing little dance because we know what's best. Because we're the smartest girls from the Northwest. Sing along if you got a twist. Sing along if you kissed the mist. There's a special little dance, you'll run the risk. There's always, always, always a twist. La 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 la. Always a twist at the end. This is garbage gibberish.
It feels AI generated.
It does. It's so bad. It's just nonsense words that rhyme. It's just these words rhyme. They have no connection to each other than they rhyme.
So I had fun with the song, but please, Russell, if you're listening, and I know you're listening, this is your favorite
I know
podcast.
You love it. You love us.
But if you're listening, please hire a songwriter. That's all I want. Please. Maybe you can co-write the song, but please hire a professional because this is...
it after he's written it.
Because this is the second time we've had a musical number in 3 episodes. And
so bad.
And the first time it's Christmas. I'm feeling. I've got a food hangover.
Since day one. I've been there since day one. I fucking hated it.
I've got a food hangover. I kind of find it cute, but this time no. I had fun, but please, never again. And of course, this is where we get our Murray Gold cameo. He's the guy playing the piano, and of course, we've seen Murray Gold cameo in the show before. He's in the band in Voyage of the Damned. So I wonder if there's some sort of connection between Murray Gold and Voyage of the Damned and Murray Gold and the Devil's Chord. Is there is that his great grandson or something? I don't know. And of course, there's Strictly Come Dancing dancers in this. The script describes these final 5 minutes as the hangover of Maestro's effects. So it's like, there's no music for 40 years, and then all of a sudden there's 4 minutes of all the music.
That's
works,
kind of how I
but
took
it's not
it.
communicated.
I see. I kind of got that when I was watching the episode when they broke out into dance. Like I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then I was like, "Okay, I guess it makes sense." I didn't really think of it as ending of the magic or whatever. I thought of it more as like you've got a world where there's been no music, and this is now suddenly music is back. This is your one excuse to do a big musical number, to be like, okay, celebrate, music's the best. Fuck yeah! I just wish it was better sounding music.
and then during the dance sequence, the kid from the start of the episode comes out of the closet.
Did he?
Yes.
God, I don't remember. Okay.
I can find the time. But yeah, he
died.
He's back.
All right. Yeah, I missed that, but oh well. While you look for that, Scott, what do you think the community over on Gallifrey base rated this episode out of 10?
47-45 in the episode. He just comes out of the door.
I mean, how much of the dance? I guess the dance is considered canon.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd imagine the average rating would be like a 7, right?
Hang on. 45, 46. You say 45, 47?
47, 45.
47, 45. Sorry, I can't dance. I can't dance. Oh yeah, he just pops out.
No explanation of why he's here, or
yeah, he's staring at them all creepily, and then he just walks away.
Yeah.
I guess that's some more hip fucking foreshadowing or something. I don't know.
Oh, and then they do the piano dance from Big on Abbey Road, which is cute. I kind of liked that, but
I didn't like the effect. I thought the effect looked weird, but yeah, it was all right. Anyway, yeah, this episode has got 8 out of 10 overall votes, with 299 votes voting for 8 out of 10. It was 23% off the vote share. Coming in second place is 7 out of 10, with 9 out of 10 in third. Everything else is below 10% pretty much, so sorry, I had to sneeze. So this one, unlike Space Babies, fairly unanimous mid 7 or 8 out of 10 episode, which I pretty much agree with. There's some interesting comments here. Made Space Babies look like City of Death is one comment. Eek, I decided to be contrarian and start with the Devil's Chord, which this is somebody that watched episode 2 before episode 1, which I guess is technically probably a smart choice. And I really didn't enjoy much of it. Jinx was camping it up and giving it a lot of welly and melevance, especially in the opening scene with Timothy Drake, but it all felt a bit hollow and in service of nothing much. I never once felt any actual peril in the proceedings. None of the guest characters felt like real people, oddly, which is usually Russell T Davis's forte. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
That's like, usually Russell is really good at coming up with characters that you care about. And we were talking about this before when we were going through Doctor Who last year. Like, Russell's era, like, everyone's got a family, everyone's got like connections and drama and relationships, and you feel everybody feels human.
Yeah.
I don't have that feeling right now with any of these episodes.
Like, even nothing, again, going back to Voyage of the Damned, there's the overweight couple who won the prize through like raffle money or whatever. They entered a competition, but then we find out that the woman entered the competition like 5,000 times. It cost her, she spent the same amount of money on the competition than it would be for a normal ticket. So and then there's a moment of just like the husband being like, oh, what are we going to do with you? Like that kind of human interaction between the two of them. Like, yeah, that's what we're missing here. Is again, it's just this episode spends too much time on extended sequences that don't impact the story in any way. Like the dancing at the end, I guess it's fun, but with that 3 minutes, you're taking away any kind of character beats or moments of silences that could have had a better tone to the episode. Like sometimes you want to have like a moment of suspense and you have like 20 seconds of silence leading up to it. If you cut that out, the moment of suspense is now gone. Stuff like that. It makes it hard to engage with the episode properly. I had fun, but yeah, I want something below the surface here. I want something deeper. I want deeper connections to what's going on, because if this continues, oh boy, oh boy.
This comment continues on. This is by Dork Jackson on Gallifrey Base. This is actually, I think, a very well written comment. As with the giggle, we're told a lot of how the wider world is being affected without really seeing much of it, except for a few people sadly looking out of their windows because there is no music. Which again is very fair. We never.
But
really
then,
feel
why
the
fuck do they have a?
But why is there
piano?
still pianos? Yeah, why do you still have yeah? And that dance number ending made my jaw drop. Whoever told RTD/Murray Gold that they can write lyrics needs a jolly good smacked bottom, because that song was bilge. I finished watching feeling a bit hollow and sad, I have to say. Hate feeling like the grumpy old stick in the mud in a sea of enthusiasm. A generous 5 out of 10, but I'm worried I finally found an era of Doctor Who that doesn't click for me. I have to say, I think I'll save watching Space Babies until tomorrow, which is what I did when I watched Space Babies. I went to bed. I can't watch another episode right now. I need to process that fucking shit and be ready for the next episode. I thought that's a really interesting comment. I also, before we move on to whatever we're going to say next, I have a very long Reddit post that I thought was interesting that somebody made on r/Doctor Who about these previous 2 episodes. It is very long, so you're going to have to listen to me drone on for a bit. But this was posted by user @satboy on r/Doctor Who. It's worth finding this thread and leaving a comment or upvoting it, because it's pretty interesting. Kind of disappointed so far. Spoilers for the 2 episodes. Oh great, another hater, I hear you saying, and I know I'm just about to get into some gripes I've had with the newest episodes, but let me assure you that I am not. So in good faith, I'll list some positives that I took away from the episodes. Shuti Gatwa is an electric doctor, and I absolutely love his energy and personality. Millie Gibson is an incredible companion, and the chemistry between the Doctor and Ruby Sunday wouldn't be the same without Millie. I loved the campiness and the silliness in these episodes, just over the top fourth wall breaking madness, and I'm here for that. I'm usually not a fan of fourth wall breaks in shows anymore, but I surprisingly very much enjoyed it. Now onto the gripes. My main concern lie with the writing of the episodes. Doctor Who is no stranger to some weaker episodes, I know that, but I honestly kept trying to give these episodes the benefit of the doubt, but something was just lacking, and for a while I didn't know what. But what I think these 2 episodes lacked was depth. It's a blanket buzzword, but I think it does capture what went wrong here. In Space Babies, we begin with an interesting concept. Babies in space, all alone, and there's a monster made by their own snot hiding on board. Okay, simple, silly, straightforward. But what happened here was that beyond the premise, there was nothing interesting happening, and it wasn't the twist that the bogeyman was made out of bogies. For me, I think the best Doctor Who episodes resonate when they poke at real-world issues, like allegories, and that's why I particularly liked the episode Oxygen, because it's a poke at late-stage capitalism and the dystopian effects of that. With Space Babies, there wasn't any moral dilemmas being questioned, no classic speeches. Not every episode needs one, but for the first episode, it could have used it. Just a lack of the certain Doctor Who style. The reason for the babies leaving is left unanswered for half the episode, and when it does get answered, it's a 1-minute explanation of a government recession, and then that's it. The crew left the station because it got shut down, but had to keep the babies baby factory alive. Why did it have to be in space? Also, throughout the episode, I kept feeling like the actions of Ruby and the Doctor were purely reactionary, and at times it felt like Ruby was just a stand-in for the audience as we floated through the story with little to no effect. But then, the Devil's Chord. A mysterious chord summons a music god demon entity. Love it. But man, even this episode lacked depth. With Doctor Who, there is a thing they do where they have these clever explanations for fantasy things to be scientific, and I was really hoping there would be a moment as to why music had such a profound impact on human beings and why exactly a chord could summon an entity. But no, instead we get a bunch of reactionary scenes where the Maestro, who I absolutely loved by the way, do some shenanigans with Ruby and the Doctor either reacting to or running away. And man, when the Doctor was trying to find the chord to put the Maestro back, I was so expecting some clever Doctor cleverness and maybe some of 12's rock bravado to find an inverse. But there's a moment when 15 says, "But I have lived and I have loved, and I can only smile like this because I have lost so much. I have experienced everything, every single thing, and if that's where music comes from," and he plays a note, and I so wanted the notes to be the Doctor's theme from Series 1 to be played. I know it wouldn't have made sense, and I probably shouldn't have. It probably should have been 15's theme, but even that wasn't played, and it was just some random notes. That's a fair point. The tune that he plays doesn't really have an impact at all. And when the Beatles, who had zero effect on the story, found the final note, it again was nonsensical and nothing. I thought it would be somewhat interesting, like maybe the chord to send the Maestro back was a Beatles song. Nope, it's just a weird chord. It lacks the Doctor Who charm of having these forces of science to be the villains. I understand that Maestro is like a god, but I would have been vastly more interested if Maestro had some other powers other than killing people who played music or whatever. I think back to the movie Yesterday, and I think about the concept that could have been a cool Doctor Who episode, like Fires of Pompeii but for the Beatles, or something. And I liked the Elodin Tones thing, but it felt like it wasn't expanded upon enough. I wish it was, because it's something about music that isn't widely known but is unique and quite ominous. Stuff like that, though, should have been more prevalent in the episode. Use music science to create an interesting episode. And again, the depth just isn't there. The conflict and the stakes are so shallow, and it isn't giving Ncuti and Millie chances to shine as interesting and dynamic characters. I feel like right now the show is watered down. Like Disney got a hold of the scripts and cut out anything interesting. It's got all the basic building blocks of Doctor Who, it just isn't as compelling as its previous seasons. But the snow thing, that's cool, I'll concede to that, so we'll hold out hope for this incarnation, and I'm excited to see where things take us. Yeah. I think it's a really, really good Reddit post. That sums up basically everything that we've been talking about. There's so many little fucking problems where things aren't clicking the way they should be clicking. I think we need to be careful, though, because it's going to be so easy for people and for us as a fandom in general, whenever there's a problem that comes up, to blame Disney and to not blame
ridiculous. Yes.
Russell. It starts and it ends at the script. If Russell T Davies is the showrunner, he has got creative control over the show. He's got so much power in Doctor Who. It is not and Disney's Disney's this great big evil company that people like to point at and be like, oh, Disney, this faceless entity is what's making this thing bad. No, the thing that is not working is the people, the talent in it aren't understanding something, or something that they're doing directly is being miscommunicated somehow, But
yeah, because when Disney gives notes, it's basically like a suggestion. Hey, why not open this episode in a way that's more fun? But
we saw one of their notes in the Christmas special when they're like, hey, we haven't seen the Doctor in fucking forever, maybe show him.
And Russell Davies can say yes or he can say no. And if he says yes, it's on him to write the story in a way that makes sense. He's the end of all the creative decisions.
And Russell has taken it upon himself this season to write about 90% of the episodes. He is the sole script writer for most of this season, and we're as you said, a quarter of the way through, and so far he's a batting average of like 5 out of 10. So what an interesting start.
But the biggest problem I think is definitely I don't think the show can sustain the 45-minute time slot anymore. because I think that's what's letting it down. Because Russell T Davies wants to do big bombastic things like dance sequences and just have a scene where there's a character playing piano for 2 minutes, or a scene where they go to future Earth, but you need to try and figure out how to make it work within a 45-minute time slot. That's not possible. You can't do everything you want to do. You have to think about cutting things down in the writing process rather than the editing process, because you do leave an episode with a lot of unanswered questions, because I presume there's a lot of stuff in the script that would make this episode make more sense, but it's just not on screen, therefore the episode does not make sense. Release. Hashtag release the Russell's cut.
The Russell cut. The RTG cut.
But I never want the show to go streaming online only, you know. But going streaming on only does allow you to have a longer.
It gives you more
slot
freedom. It gives you freedom.
Because that's the thing that the Orville season 3 does. The first 2 seasons were on network television. They have to work around commercial breaks, and they have to fit everything in like 40 to 45 minutes, because that's just how network television works. Season 3 got moved to Hulu, bigger budget, and obviously they had more time to tell the story. The episodes became like 17 minutes long instead of 40 minutes long, and those 17 minutes were used very fucking well, because they became almost like mini movies, you know, like, and the pacing was just flawless, and it was the best season yet, because they have more freedom in the way they can tell their stories. 45 minutes just does not work for Doctor Who, and I've thought this for a long time. Like, I remember watching Series 7. I think there's a lot of Series 7 episodes that are completely rushed, because you can tell that you can tell that there's a lot of big ideas packed into the episodes, but there's not enough time to establish everything correctly. So I think a nice way to go forward would be maybe extend the episodes a little bit more. Maybe to like 60 minutes, you know? That extra 10 minutes could be a lifesaver to these 2 episodes, you know? That could turn The Devil's Chord from a 7 out of 10 to like a 9 out of 10, if we have some more of that little moments peppered in throughout the episode that really make us relate to what's going on. But yeah, I feel deflated. I feel sad, but this is what it's like.
It's I guess it's not the opening we would have liked. For Doctor Who. I can't help but feel a little bit smug, because I've been saying what if it's bad this whole time. But obviously I'm very sad whenever we have bad Doctor Who. I don't like Doctor Who being bad, although it is kind of my default state for the past 5-6 years of expecting Doctor Who to be bad. So, you know, I'm used to it now. It's a regular feeling. It's just sad when it happens. But again, I'm optimistic. There were lots of things to like in these first 2 episodes, as much as there are weaknesses and inconsistencies. Hoping that it picks up. The next episode is a fucking Stephen Moffat episode. It feels like it's a bottle episode in one location. The Doctor's standing on a mine. I am hoping for some fucking excellent Stephen Moffat shenanigans. I'm so excited. So goddamn excited for him to come back writing in Doctor Who, and I hope he hasn't missed a step. I hope he's not like Chibnall, and I hope that he's not like Russell T Davies, who come back into Doctor Who and suddenly have forgotten how to write things. So hopefully it's good. Episode 3, boom, next week. And that's what we will be covering on the podcast when it comes out next week. Well, it comes out this Friday. We'll be covering it next week because we have lives and don't really have time to record at midnight. So look forward to that episode. If you want to catch it, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube so you never miss an episode. We are in video form here, where you can look at our lovely faces and leave a comment down below with your thoughts and opinions on the episode, and maybe we'll read them next week if they're interesting. If they're not, if I don't read your comment, it's because you're boring. We're also on audio form wherever there is audio podcasts: Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify. There's there's an RSS feed. We are everywhere you can get audio podcasts. We have got a new Discord server you can join in where you can listen to us record episodes live, as well as participate, leave comments, live chat, things like that. It's just something we're experimenting with at the minute. It could be a fun little community. If you feel like joining it, there should be a link in the description for that as well. Other than that, you can follow us on Twitter at WatchesDoctor, on Facebook at Who Watches Who, and there's a bunch of other things. Buy my book, Can You Taste the Color Orange? That you should do that before anything else, is buy my book. And we will see you next week. Bye.